and we can do that. Even if we just like talk it out a little bit. But are you feeling comfortable with the child support materials?
For the most part, but still I got to go through and work with that statute. But I feel like I know it. Just like I feel like I know the equitable distribution stuff. I just I don't know if I can do a test on it today. But
yeah, fair, okay. And we don't even have to do like a real one. We can do whatever you want. We can do nothing. But if you wanted to even just like without like going through like to get to an answer, like even just like look at the facts and like figure out which facts go to child support, which facts go to what could even be helpful.
Yeah, that would be amazing. And I should have been better with my notes from the last class, because then I would have had my equitable distribution steps ready. And I got to make my steps for how to answer child support stuff. But just looking at it and practicing it, I think all that would help.
Okay, cool. Well, and you can make your steps right now.
Okay.
Let me pull up. So this is the 2018 exam, so it's online already, so it's not new. But let me share it. Here we go. Okay, so I think what would be kind of helpful is you want to comment answer that one and go to the bread and butter one. Which one? Do you have a preference?
Oh, I thought you said, no, I'll follow whatever you want to do. I'm good with whatever.
Well, either way, we can practice the con law one, or we can practice, but I'm kind of a big fan of going through, before you even get to the question. So I have the exam up here. Let me pop up the questions so you can kind of get a sense of what is going to be, before we even read the fact pattern, we'll just take a quick look and see what we're going to have to do with it. I think that's always a good place to start.
Okay. Yeah. So when and how, basically. And then where might be granted any fault or no fault grounds that would support it. Okay. Substance. And then equitable distribution next. And then parentage determination corporate likely writing. Explain Tina best argument. So is C saying that Tina maybe in the fact pattern wants? Well, never mind. We'll see.
Yeah, so this is what we're going to study this week. So it's a same-sex couple, so it means that one of them does not have likely a biological connection to the child. Oh. And so we're going to have to figure out whether that non-biological parent has equal rights or not. But if you kind of it's basically like a 7-week course. And if you go through this, you can really see all 7 weeks. So the common law question is weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And then the question A is our week 2, where we looked at grounds for divorce. Mm-hmm. Week 3 is question B, where we did property distribution. Parentage is what we're going to study this week in lawyering lab. Mm-hmm. D is about child support. So that's what you did last week online, or you're doing till tonight online. Mm-hmm. Then E is getting a custody, which is what we're going to do next week. And F is visitation, which is the week after. So I think it's kind of helpful just to see, especially if you've only had Torts, of course, with me before, just to see it's not open-ended. It's not discuss all claims. It's a little more structured in a way that lines up exactly with the way we did the course this whole semester. And so on our last day of class, which is only 2 weeks away, you'll get a shell of the exam that gives you these point breakdowns. So you won't know what the question is, but you'll know that you have 45 point questions, 35 and a 25, and you'll do the math. So you'll come in knowing, I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but knowing that question C is a 25-minute question, and D and E are 25-minute questions, and A is a 15-minute question. But you'll know how much time to spend, and that's super important and super helpful to know in advance.
Also,
go ahead.
When is our, you told me one time before, but I forgot. What's our exam again? I'm sorry.
It's on the last day of class, which is July 3rd. Okay. We'll do a review in that last class, and then the exam will go live the next day. And you have until the end of exam period, which I think is July 8th. I need to check, but it's in total a week. And sometime in that week, you need to find 3 hours to take it. Okay. And so we'll go over where you get it and how you get it, but it's basically self-administered at a block of your choosing. So you just find a nice quiet spot to take it and just sit down and find a time to do it.
Sweet.
But once you sign it out, the clock starts. You should do it like a typical exam, where you start and finish all in one sitting. Okay. Cool. So if we just take a look, so we know the questions break down. I think it's kind of helpful, even if we don't do the work. If you don't have your perfect materials together, maybe we just go paragraph by paragraph or sentence by sentence and tether what I'm telling you to what it is testing you on.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go sentence by sentence. So let's just look at sentence 1 and then tell me what facts are those going to relate to? Is it going to be grounds for divorce, property distribution? What's it going to relate to?
So they were married in 2016, state of Brandeis, Janelle and Tina. So like you said earlier, potentially I don't know. Okay. I feel State of Brandeis is going to tell us what the jurisdiction is, so that is going to be good for equitable distribution.
Good. And what key date sets off our equitable distribution analysis then here?
2016. So.
Good. Right. Exactly. So now you're going to every other fact you're going to split as before, during, or after the marriage. Okay. Next sentence.
Next sentence. They were 15 years prior to their marriage.
What's that going to go to?
Spousal support potentially.
Beautiful. Good. Absolutely. And maybe equitable distribution, but it's going to look at it's going to question the idea as to whether we can only look at them as having been married for 4 years, or whether we should actually look at them as having been married closer to 15. Okay. Because even for property distribution, when we pour that marital bucket, it might matter that they were together so much longer before and unable to marry. And that's what the next sentence builds out to. So let's skip that next sentence. But they dreamed of marriage, they would have married if they could, but they couldn't. Okay. And they had this commitment ceremony, but they weren't able to marry in their home state. So all of that is going to set up an argument for spousal support and an argument for property distribution that we should pretend they've been married a lot longer than they actually have. Okay. Let's look at the next sentence, the one they celebrated their commitment.
They celebrated their commitment by opening a joint investment account and investing $50,000 in it together. Now, so was that the commitment in 2002?
Yes, good point.
Okay.
Yep. Oh. So it's in 2002, but they do it jointly in both of their names. So whose would it be?
I want to say it's both of theirs.
It is, because anything outside of marriage, we would follow title theory. Okay. And so normally outside of marriage, you would never title your property with other people, and that you also later go on to marry. And so here, though, it's a kind of unique set of facts. It's kind of tricky because you normally think anything before marriage is separate property, but here under title theory, it's both of theirs. And then the account is currently worth $125. So So that full account will be joint property. In this case, it's not even really marital property so much as joint property. Next, Tina's grandmother celebrated by gifting $20,000, which Tina deposited in her personal savings account. So whose is that?
Tina's budget because of, and if we were doing the KRS one, I think like the exceptions of 2A or something maybe.
Good. So so assuming that this is celebrating at the moment of the commitment ceremony and it's pre-marital, it's probably title theory, and if it's titled in her name, then it's probably hers. Good. So then Janelle has this career in the military. She became an emergency room doctor. She works at the local hospital. She makes $125,000 a year and receives $375 a month in military pension. This is like for all the marbles, Dimitri. Are those facts, child support facts, or property distribution facts?
I was going to say child support.
Boom. Good. That's like, if you take nothing else away from this review, that's exactly right. And you want to make sure you now when you issue spot the exam, like you can refine your flow chart later, but you just want to make sure that you connect income and salaries and pensions, things coming in each month go to child support. Next, Tina works from home as a graphic designer. She has $75,000 in outstanding loan debts from before the marriage. So where's that going to go?
That's going to go to Tina's debt bucket, or her bucket, but there's going to be debt.
Beautiful. Good. And like, again, you can work your flow chart up before, but you're getting the answer exactly right. She earns a salary of $45,000 a year. What's that relevant to?
Child support.
Perfect. She has unvested stock options in 2017 from her employer, presently valued at $8,000, but could be worth as much as $1 million should they fully vest.
That would be equitable distribution. And,
Boom.
Yeah.
Awesome. Tina takes freelance projects that earn an additional $1,000 a month. What's that relevant to?
Freelance projects. That would be child support.
Boom. Awesome. These projects are untaxed and under the table, and she concludes that these funds are not income, but that's so sad. She doesn't get to decide. Okay, they have 2 children together. Isabella is 2 years old, and she is born with a severe heart abnormality. She's already had two surgeries to repair the condition and is likely to have several more before age 18. What is that getting at?
Child support and how it may deviate from like the regular chart.
Awesome. You are crushing this. I actually think it's better that you don't have your other details like outlined together because it forces you to like put your pen down and just like realize how much you've learned. Good. That's exactly what. So we'll go to whether there's some sort of extraordinary circumstances. Each surgery costs that goes with the other one. Next paragraph. Isabella was born into the marriage. Janelle carried the child and birthed her. She's conceived. I'm going to skip this. This whole paragraph is everything we're going to study this week, but it's all about parentage, and we'll study that this week. So we'll jump to the next paragraph. During the pregnancy and while married, the couple decided to buy a bigger car, move into a bigger house. So they sold Tina's Honda Accord that she had owned for 10 years for a trade-in of 5 and purchased a new Honda Odyssey. So what is that going to do for us?
We're looking at equitable distribution and going to try to trace that out for Tina.
Perfect. Yep, good. So it would have been her separate property, and then she can trace it out. So the new car will be marital, but she can still trace it out. They currently owe $21,000 on the loan. Is that going to be marital or separate?
Marital.
Good. And they also sold Janelle's condo that her grandmother bequeathed to her several years before the marriage for $175. They took the proceeds and put 50 of it into a down payment into their new sort of bigger home. So what rule would you apply to that?
The same separate property, but trying to trace out the 50,000.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Good. So tracing and bequeathment. Good. This home is worth $350,000 a day. Have an outstanding mortgage for $280. So the mortgage, of course, is going to be marital. The rest of the condo proceeds into Janelle's personal bank accounts. Is that separate or marital?
So there's the condo proceeds. Let me remember what happened to the condo. Was that okay? So that's going to be separate.
Perfect. Good. Exactly. You're crushing this. Good. I'm going to skip the next paragraph because it's about parentage. And so, and the next paragraph too. So basically, let's see. So anyway, so they're trying to figure out how they denote the non-biological parent. That's all parentage stuff. Okay. So let's jump to the middle of the page where it says the second child in Janelle and Tina's family is Tina's biological son, Roberto. Roberto is 16 years old. Tina and her ex-husband have joint custody of Roberto. Tina and Janelle have Roberto every other week. Roberto has struggled with alcohol use and depression, and he has passed out drunk twice while watching Isabella. So what's that going to go to? We haven't even studied it yet, but it's still pretty obvious.
Child custody.
Perfect. Exactly. So we're going to try to figure out what's in the best interest of the children, and the other parent. So here, who's the other parent? Janelle is going to say that Tina, either shouldn't get custody because of the risks that this might present, or should get a visitation term that protects her and makes sure that he's not home alone with Isabella. But in the next paragraph is the same thing. It's all going to be child custody stuff. So who does the housekeeping, who takes care of the kids, who works the long hours, and we'll flesh that out as we move to child custody. But it's going to be basically each side gathering ammo, for lack of a better phrasing, and like making the best argument that they can about why it's in their best interest, for the best interest of the child, to have more custody or parenting time. Let's see. Okay, so then in the next paragraph we find out that Janelle came home to find Tina with another woman, and she was shocked and she threw a medical bag and hit Tina in the face. Is that going to be a ground for divorce?
The adultery, potentially. But if they're fondling and kissing, it may not be enough.
Good, it might not be enough. And look at the very beginning of the sentence.
Tina and Janelle separated last week after Janelle came. Okay, so it was after.
I read it wrong, but you're right. I think that they separated immedately after this happened. So I was reading it the other way around. But yes, so adultery is a possible one. And then what about cruelty?
No, because it's not. I should know the words, but it's not. Not enough. Pretty much.
Where's the conduct?
So say, what if Janelle had? And I'm sorry for the what ifs, but if Janelle had moved out like a week before because they were having trouble or whatever, would that be construction?
It might be, exactly, and it would definitely compromise the causation of the adultery. So you would say, yes, there was adultery, but that's actually not what broke the marriage. The marriage broke causally the week before, and that's exactly. You would argue. Good. So here, the facts are actually pretty similar to Sarah Cody, where it's like one incident, but it's unlikely to be enough. But then we learned that the kids saw it. So when we get to child custody next week, we're going to wrestle with this question of what about child custody and domestic abuse if a child sees domestic abuse? And the answer is it's actually not as significant as you might think. So there would have to have been like a court order and like a formal domestic violence case for it to matter. Okay, then last, Tina is currently living 30 miles away in a high crime area in the state of Wildcats. Roberta's with her every other week. Gabriella is the girlfriend, is a chain smoker. A public records search reveals that her neighbor is a registered sex offender. Janelle's now keeping Tina from seeing Isabella. And so all of those facts are going to go to our last 2 weeks. So custody, the question of who gets the kid, and then visitation. You'll see my question on visitation. It says advise Tina. I'm on subpart F. It says advise Tina on how the court would structure a visitation order, and that's where you pinpoint really specific, concrete things that could be negotiated. So, for example, if Gabriella's a chain smoker, you could probably get an order that says that Gabriella won't smoke in the house, or you could probably get an order that Roberta won't be left alone with Isabella without further supervision. And so those would be your visitation terms. And you'll see that when you get to the visitation question, I give you an assumption. So I say assume that Janelle has temporary custody with reasonable visitation, and you're going to try to structure the order. So the two things that we haven't done yet this semester are custody and visitation, which are, I think, super straightforward. And I think the hardest thing of what we've done already is figuring out which facts tether to spousal or to child support, and which facts tether to equitable distribution. And you were flawless in issue spotting this exam to get everything right. So I actually love that we just did this without you being obsessively prepared for it, because look how great you did, right? And if you just had those little flowcharts to go with it, you could almost take the exam with one sheet with grounds for divorce, one sheet with spousal support, one sheet with child support, and then just make your extract your facts as you go. And you just have to be careful to not connect the wrong money to the wrong analysis. But you did phenomenal. And this one didn't have a spousal support question at all.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the encouragement.
You're great. That's crazy. And you're going super fast in time to read, and you got every single fact right. So definitely, I think for this exam, more than any other law school exam, you just need to be super prepared to have the client counseling points you want to drop, to have your flow charts to make sure the difference between, an A answer and B answer is one that starts by giving the full equitable distribution rule and then applies it, in very carefully a step-by-step format. That's those are the things that you have left to do just to pull those prep documents together. But instinctually, you knew the material flawlessly, so you're ready to go.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope it shows up on the test. So I do have to get those flowchart stuff together. So
yeah.
With the equitable distribution rule, I think I get it. So you want, in that part, you wanted the history kind of, and then where we are type now, how we do stuff now, and then...
Yeah. And for all of them, just like a macro rule, just like your client would want, right? Your client doesn't want you to say you owe $326 a month in child support. They want you to say, here's how we do child support. You put the two incomes together, you figure out the percentage, we look at this chart, any judge is going to say the same thing. They would want to know all that too. It would build their confidence that whatever you tell them the award is, any other lawyer will tell them, the judge will tell them. And it just really helps build their understanding of what this process is. And so for all of those things, for child support, it's so consistent that you just want to explain it. For spousal support, it's so unpredictable that you want to explain it so they can see how much discretion the court has. So I think it's just really, really helpful for your client, not so much just because I want it on the exam, but your client will just want to know how does this rule actually work. And so always start with that description, and it's usually going to be a multi-step process, and then you go through those steps in your analysis.
Okay, thank you for that. And so I worked on doing those. So now, one thing I should have asked in class, but so when we're doing the step-by-steps with the marital bucket stuff, how did you want us to divide that again? You said something in class and I forgot what it was.
I think the big point that I was saying in class on Thursday is that everything is marital property unless you can prove otherwise. Yeah. So you give your macro rule, and then you sort of account or itemize all the property that you have, and then you assume it's all marital until you can pull other things out. So you go one by one. So I suggest you go through, for Tina first, and then for Janelle second, and you pull out each of their separate property, and then you total it up. So she gets, $45,000, and the other spouse has $100,000 in debt, and you can see those disparities. Then you take that marital bucket, and then with that marital bucket, you apply the contribution, the distribution factors, the 4 factors, and you make the best argument you can for spouse 1, you make the best argument you can for spouse 2, and then your conclusion is that the court will decide in its discretion how to divide the marital property, and it does not start with 50-50.
Okay. So that's cool.
Yeah.
And then we didn't have any prenup stuff in there.
Nope.
Okay. So then with child support, if we're going to tag it similar, so I would start out saying it was kind of discretionary, and then now we do it more rigid.
Beautiful. Yep, exactly. Federally informed, mathematically calculable. Every judge will get the same answer.
Okay. And then just break the stuff down in the steps with the income. Or do you want us to know all 3, or just really mainly income? Or?
Only income shares. That's a great point. And so I think that knowing the other 2 is helpful so that you can see how kind of unusual income shares is in treating 2 parents as if they're one economic unit when they're actually not. But otherwise, you don't have to ever mention the other 2 at all.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. I really didn't work on my answers so I can do well in this.
Oh, you're ready. You're good. You're working on you're working on taking it to A level with the structure and the client counseling piece, but you know your stuff really well.
Thank you. And that's just from this class, so you make sure that we do, honestly. So.
I think it's great when you get to apply something you've learned right away. You just remember it so much better than just passively hearing it. Where you're nod, I think I have it, but you're not really sure until you actually do it multiple times.
Yeah, so I gotta get on it. And with work, I kind of fallen behind, so I gotta bust it.
Yeah. Well, I hope this was a good confidence because you know your stuff.
Yeah, this is great. And so I guess I'll let you go. I wish I was ready because then we could just knock out the equitable distribution stuff, but
you did great. And I'll be adding more in crossers because we're just getting so, believe it or not, we're getting close to the exam. So I'll definitely have some next Sunday as well. And then I'll probably add some, I need to find some other times, but I'll definitely keep doing some more. And we can just go through these practice exams in each of the reviews just to keep, I think going through them, even if you just do it quickly like we just did, it's still super helpful to build confidence and just make sure that you're bucketing things in the right answers.
I probably need to, because I haven't looked at common law stuff since we went over it 2 weeks ago, so I probably should jump back on that too.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one to do. And on the last day of class, a practice exam is due, a complete one. So the sooner you can start to pull your, flowcharts or your, I don't know what the right word is, your exam plan together, the better you'll be when you sit down and do the practice exam too.
Okay, well, I'll try and have something solid for you by tomorrow. When we talk. What time is good for you tomorrow?
Let me double check. I teach at 7, so I'm afraid that I'm gonna be really optimistic and schedule something and then be panicking about because I'm teaching at Baltimore on Monday nights. So let me double check. I might. Yeah. Go ahead.
If you can't make it, it's fine. We can just meet on Friday or something too. It'll give me more time, honestly.
Okay, well, let's do Friday then. Because this work again.
Yeah, that's perfect
Okay.
for me.
Perfect. Let's do that. And like, if you got those things together, that'd be great because we could really, you could even put them up on the, like, if you did them electronically, you could put them up on the screen and we could look at them together and just like confirm that you got them.
That's really good. That's a great idea. All right, I'll write that down. Thank you. And then
Yeah. So,
okay, let me put that up. Okay, and then so for child support for class, what should I kind of focus on? Just like get my answers together and
for the exam.
just for class. I mean, and for the exam. But I was thinking for class this week.
For class, really nothing. Just come with your Cody Sarah memo handy, and we'll work it through together in class like we have other weeks. So you really don't need to do. There's reading for class on Thursday instead on parentage, and I need to reach out pretty quickly and give everybody the case breakdowns for that. But so I would focus on just reading for class because parentage is what we're going to study, and it's really fun, I think, and kind of a little murky compared to some of the other things we've been studying. But for child support, I would suggest doing the same thing that you did for equitable distribution, where you get that big macro rule written up and ready, where it's like a thorough summary of how this rule works, and you're ready to drop it on the exam, and then the step-by-step of how to calculate it.
All right, this is perfect then. Thank you so much for your time.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you're here.
I would have put my camera on, but I didn't make my bed behind me, and I thought people were going to be here. So it's like...
No, Brian wanted to come. He asked me to record it, so I'm going to share with him. But otherwise, this is great. It's been like a lot of us have just reached out more one-on-one with questions, and I mean that's how a summer class kind of just has to be. Everybody's at their own pace, and like if you overdo it with officers and stuff, then people are just stressed out that they're supposed to be there. So keep reaching out for what you need because I'm here to support, and you should set your sights very high for success for this class.
Yeah, I want to do well. I think we all want to do well for you. Like
yeah. Oh, you don't know this stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll let you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
It's so good to see you. I'm so glad you came, and I'll see you. We'll do Friday. We'll see you Thursday, and we'll do Friday at 4:30 again.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Take care, Dimitri.
You too. Bye.
Bye.